Welcome to a Bible Talk from Lower Mountains Anglican Church.
Hi, my name's Nick, and I'm going to be reading the New Testament passage this morning from John chapter 14, starting at verse 1. This is Jesus speaking to his disciples. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you may also be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way? Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Philip said, Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us. Jesus answered, Don't you know me, Philip, even after I've been among you such a long time? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Don't you believe that I'm in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing his work. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe on the evidence of the works themselves. Very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it.
Morning, morning. Hello everyone, my name is Ken Noakes. Hello to those who are out there in online land. It's great that you can join us for church this morning. And to Brent and Kalinda, who I know down there in the cry room, I know this is a special day for you. We're so thrilled to be able to join this day with you and with your family and with your friends. If you're here for this baptism, we are so very thrilled you can join us today. Thanks for coming in the middle of our John series. I want to look at this amazing passage that we've just had read for us and see whether it has something that will say something to us that will be helpful today. According to the Domain Property Group, house prices in Sydney have absolutely soared in the last 3 months, back to levels that previously have only been seen maybe once before. In just the past week, Michael Yardley of property.update.com has suggested that housing prices have risen by 5.3%, driven by what they say historically low interest rates and something called FOMO, fear of missing out. Now, not wanting to be one who misses out, I thought I'd have a look and see what the most expensive properties were on the market in the lower mountains. And this is what I found. For all of those property investors out there, you can buy a house for $1.85 million. It boasts 5 bedrooms, including a master wing with a retreat and a private courtyard, 4 bathrooms, a formal lounge and dining room, 3 internal courtyards, a library, a study, a media room and a games room, an outdoor heated pool with spa, fountain and shower area, air conditioning throughout and an integrated security system, established and manicured gardens with climate-controlled watering systems fed by 2 3,000-litre naturally filled watering tanks, 2-car garage. I think you got the idea. It's a pretty big house. Now, if you happen to be a realtor attempting to sell that castle of luxury, then the best way to thank me for this advertisement would be to put some money of your 3% commission into the LMAP Building Fund. Thank you, that'll be very helpful. For everyone else here who perhaps now have a bit of a glimpse of how the other half live, then I suspect that, probably more correctly, how the other 1% lives, I suspect that you will have two questions. Where is this place? And can I see it? Well, before I answer that, let me tell you about an even better property. And in the passage we look at today, from John's Gospel, Jesus tells his disciples about a property with many, many rooms, a place that his Father opened, made available to all, and one that Jesus was making ready for all of those whom he had invited. Friends, today, in the crudest possible terms, I would like to sell you a house. But I want to offer it to you not as a place that you will have to pay for, but offer it as a place where you will be welcome to dwell for in eternity. A wonderful, wonderful dwelling. Now, if you suffer from FOMO, like I do, let me ease your fear of missing out and tell you that the offer of this property is open to all, and my plan is to extend that offer to you by the end of this talk by asking you to pray a prayer. I thought it'd be best to tell you up front so that you're not caught by surprise later on. Nobody wants to sign a contract without any information. So let me just tell you up front, that's what I'm going to hopefully be doing in there. Not that it's a contract that I'm going to be asking you to sign. But friends, don't let your hearts be troubled, because what I'm about to tell you is very good news. Don't let your hearts be troubled. We're looking at John 14. If you can have that open in front of you, that'd be very helpful. There are Bibles at the back. We have tablets, and the Wi-Fi will give you access to that if you've got your tablet there. Jesus has gathered his disciples together, and he's just told them that he needs to leave them for a while. You know, long service leave perhaps, but he's going. And as he goes, the disciples don't know it just yet, but the reason for his going is that he's going to die. It's not that he's ill. He just knows that in order to give life to all, Jesus would have to lose his own. At this point in the story, that will happen just days away. Now, we are a few weeks away from Easter. Churches around the world will celebrate or use Easter to remember the historical events that Jesus is talking about here in John 14. The weekend when he was arrested and then hung on a cross, then killed and buried, only to rise back to life and walk from his tomb. Now, as troubling as those events may have been, Jesus wants his disciples to see a bigger and better picture. Verse 1, don't let your hearts be troubled. Don't let your hearts be troubled. There's lots of reasons why a person might want to leave you or may leave you. And when people are separated from one another, that is always going to be troubling. Of course, the most troubling is when that separation happens because a person is dying. It is not normal for the person who's dying to be the one who comforts everyone else. But here, Jesus' concern is for his disciples. And the way he comforts them is by making them a promise. Verse 2, in my Father's house, it has many rooms. I'm going there, but I want you to know that I am coming back for you. I'm going there first so that I can prepare a place and have it ready for you. Now, what the disciples are going through here is more than separation anxiety. You know that moment when a parent attempts to leave the house and the kid grabs hold of their leg and won't let them go? That's separation anxiety. Where are you going? I don't want you to leave me, all that through. This is more than that. Jesus is addressing very real fears. Yet he does that by making a promise that does seem incredible. He says, after I die, I will go to the Father's house. What he's doing there is he's describing heaven. But after being in heaven for a while, I'll be back. And my purpose for returning is to take you to be with me. Now, the disciples have two questions. Can you guess what they are? Where is this place? Can I see it? Let me show you. Verse 5. Thomas said, Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way? It's a natural question. He wants to know where this heaven is. Whenever you set out to go somewhere, you first need to know where you are going. You type it into the GPS, and then you listen to this lovely voice which tells you to turn right and turn left, and hopefully you eventually reach the destination. I went to visit a house yesterday in Claremont Meadows. I typed the address into the GPS, and off it took me, and all of a sudden I appeared in Claremont Meadows. Wonderful. So Jesus answers, make sure you are clear in where you're going. Actually, he doesn't say that. What he says famously in verse 6 is this: I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And if you really knew me, then you would know my Father as well. What Jesus is saying here is the roadmap, the GPS, is he himself. I am the way. I am the directions. I will show you how to get where it is you want to go. You want to know how to get to this place? Then Jesus is that way. You want to know if that way is the right way? Then Jesus is the truth. You want to know if this place is good? Then Jesus is the life. It is such an outright statement. He doesn't say, let me tell you a way or a truth or a life. He says, I am the way, the truth, the life. Now, perhaps that rubs you up the wrong way. If you breathe the air that we all breathe now in the world that we live in, that can rub us up the wrong way. This is the options generation after all. We have choices. We should be allowed to exercise our choices in whatever way we want. We like to have the ability to determine what we want to do, when we want to do it, where we want to go, what truth we want to follow, what life we want to lead. We always know best until we don't. So yesterday, when I finished up what I was doing in Claremont Meadows, I typed home into the GPS, and it gave me a path that was clearly wrong. And so I ignored it, and I drove the way that I knew would be best, that I thought would be the quickest, the easiest way to get home, only to get caught in road closures that took me bumper to bumper through traffic all the way through what seems like an endless suburb of roundabouts, Glenmore Park. Somebody else has gone through that one, yeah. I'm sure I went through 27 roundabouts yesterday. What Jesus says to his disciples is, I want you to come with me. When the time is right, I want you to come with me, and I want you to come with me to my Father's house. But to do that, let me tell you, there is one path. And unless it is with me, you will end up lost, going round and round in circles. So if our first question is, where is it? Our second question is, can I see it? The disciple Philip asks that question in verse 8. Lord, show us the Father, and that will be good enough for us. His question is so much like the questions that we have today. It's all about what we can see with our own eyes. Many years ago, I used to work in retail. Without putting too fine a point on it, it was at a time when the internet was just starting out. I remember sitting in a meeting and being told that the future of retail was online. That a day would come when people would look at products online and order what they wanted. The skepticism in the meeting was clear. Who would buy products that they couldn't first see and touch and feel? Well, according to CMO, which is a business analysis organisation, Australia's e-commerce rate grew last year, and I'm sure this is only because of COVID, but it grew last year to be 14% of the total retail market. a percentage they forecast will grow in the years to come. Now, I have to confess that I'm not a total convert as yet. I am still with the 86% of people who don't yet trust e-commerce over bricks and mortar retail. For some reason, I like to be able to see with my own eyes, to touch with my own hands, to smell with my own nose before I then lay out whatever it is that I have to lay out for. Philip's concern is that he wants to be able to see before he makes any decision. I get it. So Jesus addresses his concern by asking his own questions back again. And he gives you 3 short-fire questions from verse 9. Don't you know me, Philip? Even after all of this time we have spent together, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? And in verse 10, don't you believe that I am the Father and that the Father is in me? His point. You know me, Philip. You've been with me. You can vouch for me. You have seen me in action. If I was to ask for a reference, then you would be a good person to ask, Philip, because you've been there for the time that I've been. You would be a good reference point. You can attest to my character, to my person, to my achievements over a sustained period of time. And if you've seen me, well, then you've seen the Father, because what you get with me is what you get with him. That's a big claim, isn't it? If you think about what the disciples had seen Jesus do, and this is for all of those who have been working through John's Gospel with us over the last however many weeks. If that's not you, feel free to go back and have a look at some of those talks, because we've been looking at all of these extraordinary things that Jesus has done, which are now recorded in the pages of history. Those remarkable acts that astound those who are present, like turning water to wine, or healing a child, then a lame man, then a blind man, then walking on water, then feeding 5,000 people with next to nothing. Then perhaps, when you think about all of those things, we should be given pause for thought. Well, his miracles, if you think about those miracles, well, they were acts that we can largely do today. You know, with the advancements that we have in medical science and technology, those are all things that we can work out how to do today. And they don't seem that miraculous anymore. Except that Jesus did them instantly, upon request. And he didn't have the help of million-dollar machines to do it. You could say that he did what only God could do. And so, if you look at Jesus, you should be able to see the Father. In fact, that is exactly the point that Jesus goes on to make in verse 11. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe on the evidence of the works themselves. Philip, if seeing is what you want, then I have already given it to you. I've given it to you over and over and over and over again. Look at what I've done. But there is actually a better way. Hearing. Believe me, Jesus says, when I say. You know, there are a lot of amazing places around our world. There's much joy in being able to travel and visit. Well, there used to be, before COVID. Every time we hand money over to book a holiday, we do so in the hope that we will see something that we have first heard about. Perhaps we've been told by those who've travelled before us, or the places hold some kind of significance in our family history. And so we set out looking to experience that which was first revealed to us by the words of others, by the testimony of others. Friends, that's what we have here in John 14. It is history with a promise. It is being told so that we can hear, and so that we might then be able to go and see in our own good time. It is told by those who have traveled before us. It is written by those who want to reveal something special to us so that we might benefit. It is Jesus holding his hand out to his disciples and asking them to hear what it is that he has to say. And in hearing, to so believe so that so that he might then be able to lead them right into his Father's house for all time. He's not asking for a down payment or a deposit. He's not committing them to a mortgage that will lock them in for the rest of their days. He is issuing them an invitation to move in with him into a mansion that he has prepared for them. And what he asks of them, what he asks is one thing. It's to believe in him. Right at the very beginning of this passage. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Why is that? You believe in God. Believe also in me. A few days later, Jesus was arrested and tried. No fault was found. He was hung on a cross and died. Kind of death that was the worst that people should experience, and the worst of people died from. He was buried, and 3 days later he walked out of his tomb and returned to his disciples. What he did at Easter, even medical science and technology today has not been able to replicate. And in showing himself to his disciples, he gave them every reason to believe that there is life after death. And he made them a promise that he would leave them and go and prepare a place for them and come back that they might go with him. I've read this passage quite a few times. I've taught on it a few times. And there is a question I've often asked about this. Why leave and come back? You know, why not just take the disciples with him when he went the first time? Wouldn't that be easier? Well, one reason why is because the disciples that he was trying to make sure weren't worried, those disciples weren't fit to go. You cannot walk into God's house if the way for you to enter has not been cleared first. You cannot walk into God's house if you do not have the invitation. You cannot walk into God's house if you don't go with the person who has invited you. What Jesus did on the cross was to deal with the core reason why the disciples would not be welcome in the Father's house. He died for the sin that kept them from his Father. And in rising back to life, he clears the path, the way. He restores what was right, the truth. And he gives what is promised, the life. But that is one reason. Let me give you a second reason why I think he had to leave and come back again. It is so all who follow in the footsteps of the disciples, that is us, would know that what Jesus was doing was for them as well. For John 14 is not where the story ends. Jesus made a promise to all who follow us, who, although we may not be able to see him with our own eyes, we may hear and believe. And by believing, we would know that it is with Jesus that we are welcome in the Father's house. And by believing, we would know what Jesus did on the cross has cleared a path, the way, has restored what was right, the truth, has given us what he promised, the life. What were our two questions? Where is this place? Can I see it? Well, the 5-bedroom place is in Blaxland if you're interested. After all of this, it doesn't really sound that attractive after all anyway. So how about we go for an even bigger place? Let's think about something that we might actually, might like instead. Let's think about Buckingham Palace, shall we? Let's put that up on the market. What would we have? 775 rooms, including 19 staterooms. Each of those rooms would probably have enough in it that you would have to pay more than $1.85 million to be able to get all of the stuff into it anyway. You have 52 royal or guest bedrooms. I didn't know there were that many in the royal family. You have 188 staff bedrooms, 92 offices, 78 bathrooms. It has its own post office, cinema, swimming pool, doctor's surgery, and, I guess this is relevant, jewellery shop. A place fit for a queen. And yet even that is not as grand as the Father's house, with the many rooms, with the ones that are set aside for you. And so, friends, allow me to invite you to an open house. It is there for all, but you can only enter if you know Jesus, if you have a friendship with Jesus. And all friendships have to start somewhere. It's not baptism where a relationship starts, unfortunately. That would be lovely. Just splash some water and you know that the person's already in. There's the invitation. That's not what baptism does. But what baptism does, particularly of a child, is it tells you something of the faith of the parent, the friendship that they have with Jesus. And baptism in that sense is an encouragement to all, that when they might see a baptism, they might go, yeah, I'm with them. I have a friendship. That is who I might be able to spend eternity with because they have a friendship with Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life. All friendships have to start somewhere, so allow me to kick it off for you by praying a prayer. A prayer, like I told you up front, it's going to come up on the screen for you because I want you to be able to see that prayer before I pray it. And the prayer goes, Dear God, I recognise that I'm not always right, have not always been right with you. I'm sorry and I ask you to forgive me. I realise that the only way to be right with you is by being friends with your Son. From this point on, I put my trust in him. Amen. There's no contract here to sign. It's more of an agreement, a way of starting a relationship or a friend. Now, it's not my place to insist that you pray this prayer. That's your call. But this invitation is for all. And so I'm going to pray this prayer a line at a time, and I'm going to ask you to pray it quietly in your own head, because I know that God hears all. And at that, it's between you and him. So let me lead us in prayer. Dear God, I recognise that I have not always been right with you. I'm sorry and I ask you to forgive me. I realise that the only way to be right with you is by being friends with your Son Jesus. From this point on, I put my trust in him. Amen. Now, friends, I hope that you're able to pray that prayer. But if not, I mean, it's a lot to take in one fell swoop this morning. It's not as if we've just sprung this upon. John's gospel's been leading to a point like this for a while. And so if you're not ready to pray that, you weren't ready to pray that prayer, that's fine. But perhaps now is a good opportunity to go back and have a look at the rest of John's gospel. Maybe to go back and have a look at some of those talks that have happened beforehand, because it'll lead to a point where you can say, do I believe in this person or not? Do I want to be friends with him? And if you have prayed that prayer, I'm so thrilled. Please tell someone about it. Tell someone that you know already is friends with Jesus. I'm sure they will be thrilled, and I hope that they'll be able to point you to what you should now probably think about or do next. And if you're someone who's been Christian for a very, very long time, and you have prayed that prayer again, well, you already know the value of that.
You have been listening to a Bible talk from Lower Mountains Anglican Church. If you'd like to know more about Jesus, get further information, or download other resources, please visit our website at lmap.org.au.